Well, that's okay. You made it. That's what counts. Kristen will not be here. She's had a family emergency. So I'm going to call the meeting to order and read the disclosures that pursuant to section 20 of chapter 20 of the Acts of 2001, an act relative to extending certain COVID measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting of the Energy Committee for the town of Bridgewater will be fully remote and accessible to the public through remote participation to the greatest extent possible. And Tom just made it very accessible. There were no in-person attendance. Anybody that wished to tune in can join in by Zoom, and we have one guest. And what I would do is call a meeting to order now, and I'm going to take out of order the various, unless there's a public comment out there that someone wants to speak, I'm going to take some things out of order, specifically the presentation.
I have a public comment.
I'm sorry again, sir?
I have a public comment.
Yes, please.
Sure. My name is Mark Peterson, Church Street.
Yeah.
And my comment is in regard to the first item, old business, climate sustainability, and then also for D, zoning and more tree cutting ordinance. And I also didn't know how this affected the Energy Committee. However, if it does, there's such a thing as the stormwater utility.
Mm-hmm.
And that has mechanisms where it can disincentivize clear cutting, and it can also has mechanisms for incentivizing planting and maintaining trees on your property as tree credits. So you would every property has a fee, such as like a sewer or water fee,
Mm-hmm.
and to be the stormwater utility fee, and it would be a set amount based upon acreage and what type of property it is, and the credit would be a tree credit. So they would get a fee assessed to the size of their property, and in order to reduce that fee, there's a lot of other credits, but one of those credits is a tree credit, where it would so that's a mechanism, a roundabout way of doing it, but I think it's there for a good reason. It feels roundabout, but it's there for a good reason. So the thing is called the stormwater utility, and I just wanted to bring it up.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. What I'm going to suggest is we do have a tree committee that has formed in town that deals with these kinds of things more directly than the Energy Committee. And I think they have a meeting coming up very soon, and they post it. I will, if you can send an email as to the specifics of it, I can get it to them, and also would encourage you to join the tree committee meeting.
Sure. Who would I send the email to?
I'll give you my email. My first name is Carlton, Carlton, and then it's at THEHUNTS.org. If you send it to me, I can get it to the tree committee and then also get it to this committee.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. We really appreciate your participation. So I'm going to go on to the next thing is presentations. And we have John O'Rourke, I hope I'm saying that correctly, and he attended a town council meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the town manager connected him to me, and he has lots of good information on two things I think we're interested in. One is community solar, and the other is community energy aggregation. So I'm going to let him have the floor and tell us what he can about that, and then we'll follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate your letting me come before you tonight. Essentially, I sent you this brief presentation, so I guess all your committee members have it. What is most interesting for your committee is the fact that aggregation has been used by a number of towns to increase their green energy and the green energy in the grid, the renewables. We have a very good relationship with Green Energy Consumers Alliance. I don't know whether you're aware of them or not, but essentially they are the gold standard here in Massachusetts for sourcing renewable energy credits. And essentially, they do most of the credits for us when we do green aggregations. And as you can see from the list that I had given you, towns like Brookline, Somerville, Arlington, Dedham, Gloucester, Medford, and Melrose have very effectively used aggregation to increase their renewable energy mix in their towns. And it's become very effective. More and more towns are looking at aggregation as a way of increasing that renewable energy component and bring more renewable energy into the grid. We're also, right now, our director of innovation is looking at how to integrate community solar into our aggregations. So that's kind of
Mhm.
stages of that. But it looks like it's something that we're going to be able to do. That's what I'd like to do is just, since I've given you this brief presentation, open it up to questions for you.
Tom, do you have any right now?
Not off the top of my head. I'm very interested. I read all your information there in the email. It's very interesting that if we could do this for the town and everybody involved in it, I mean, why wouldn't you? When we get
Well, that's exactly it, Tom. And that's what municipal officials, that's the conclusion they come to after they see how this works. Because again, it can be used very effectively to reduce prices, although we have to indicate that savings cannot be guaranteed. But essentially, this is an excellent way to increase renewable energy. And as I say, a lot of towns are taking advantage of that.
if
Go
this
ahead.
could just keep the electrical rates at the same level or to a guaranteed percentage hike in a 2 or 3 year time frame that we can lock in, it's going to save us in the long run, town wise and personally. It's no brainer. It seems like.
Yeah, as you can see from the graphs that I provided, essentially aggregation has done very well relative to the utility pricing, because essentially the utilities have to go out to bid at the specific times of the year, whether the market is good or not. We can take advantage of markets when they're good for renewals and for launches. And essentially, I think I also gave you some information on recent launches that we're going to go in March at a 16 cent rate, which is substantially below both National Grid and Eversource. So it's a no-brainer, actually.
Do you have a ballpark? I know there's no guarantees, but it is lower. Is there a ballpark about how much lower it might be? Is it 3%? Is it 20%? What's the range in reduced cost?
Well, essentially, right now, the reduction is substantial. And essentially, we look for a 10-15% savings. And again, I have to say that those are not guaranteed. But in this present situation, it's significantly more than that. And it's going to be more than that in the next adjustment, because both utilities have a very high rate in this adjustment. And what they do, they go out for 50% of their load for a year. So that 33 cents for National Grid and the 25 cents for Eversource is going to be half of the next rate. So if they come in with even a 10-cent rate for that next, you're going to average those two, and it's going to be high. It's going to be very high. So
it's positive in that direction. How does community solar, which, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that someone that has an electrical meter that they pay, they can join community solar and essentially purchase energy from a set of panels in that solar field. How do these two programs interact, compare? Do they compete?
Well, certainly any agreement that was with a community solar project would be one agreement that would sit alongside any electricity that was taken from the aggregation. They would be mutually exclusive. They wouldn't interfere with one another.
Okay, so if you're a community solar, you access that, then you'd opt out of the aggregation program, so you keep the community solar.
Well, again, if the community solar is providing all of your electricity, okay, then you wouldn't need to join the aggregation. But most of the time, that's not the case. It's only a partial situation with the community solar, and then the aggregation would sit alongside that.
So they're complementary or supplementary.
Yes, exactly.
And the aggregation program it's an opt-out program, correct? If the town votes for it, and I'm assuming here it's the town council. I don't know if we have to go to a referendum vote, but if we voted that, then everybody's into it unless you don't want to.
Well, it is a town council vote, and essentially anybody on the basic service of the utility, which you guys are National Grid.
Correct.
Anybody on the basic service could choose to be automatically enrolled. Anybody who has chosen a competitive supplier wouldn't be marketed to at all.
So it wouldn't be an automatic in. You choose to come in.
Well,
if you have somebody that you already bought electricity from, which is competitive, stay out.
Yeah, and anyone who's on the basic service can automatically come in by not doing anything.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It's an automatic. It's an opt-out. Okay.
It's an opt-out.
Essentially, anyone who is on the service of a competitive supplier could choose to come into the program.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, this is great interest because I think Westbridge, or I didn't know about it, but I just recently saw on Facebook social pages that I think West Bridgewater is a community aggregation community, and the savings there were good. I'm not going to say how much, they're good.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're charged with in this committee is to come back to the town with potential policies for the town council to vote on. So this is very opportune. We will talk a bit about tonight, some reports that we've drafted a little bit. And one of the things that I've potentially posed is a policy to join the community aggregation process. That process, how long would that take?
That's my question.
2 months or 3 months?
Well, at this point, you're probably talking about a year from start to finish. Although the DPU has gotten some very bad publicity recently, and it may end up being faster than that.
Oh, good.
DPU is Department of Public Utilities.
Department of Public Utilities. Yep.
And usually, bad publicity, you end up.
In other words, they were taking too long to approve municipal aggregation plans. And essentially, right now you've got 175 communities that have a plan. So it's not like it's something new. It's something that should be approved very quickly.
If the town town council chose to go to an aggregation program, is that a competitive bid? Or is that one? I don't know how that works. Is it a competitive process?
We lost him. I think we lost him.
Competitive bid, and the supplier is chosen by the town.
Oh, okay.
So it's a competitive process, and the town chooses the provider.
Yeah, when we get to a bid process, that's correct.
Right. Okay. And I think you laid that out a little bit in the publication. So my promise to you is that we will get those things posted And hopefully we can let the people know of the town and go from there to move this forward as we can.
Yeah, that would be great. And the first step is basically the council voting to move forward.
Okay. That, I have a meeting with the town manager on tomorrow on another committee that I work on. I'll try to work with him a little bit as to what we need to do.
That would be great. That would be
that.
great.
Anything else that you think we need to convey to the public through this process? John, anything else?
No, I think the basics are laid out. Again, obviously, I would go to the council and make a presentation to them that's in more detail, and see what they do in terms of a vote.
Well, here's something I can posit with the town manager. The Energy Committee, by our administrative code, is required to come before the council annually for information, discussion, whatever. I can work with the town manager and the town council to try to put something together, and then we can work on exactly how we go about informing the council. Because I think they're going to have more questions than I have, because I'm somewhat familiar.
Okay, yeah, and I can send you a sample motion for the town council that is essentially, been approved by the Department of Public Utilities.
That would be excellent. So we can work on that. And I promise that as a committee, we'll work on that, and I'll move forward as quickly as we can. Thank you for the information and willingness to put up with my foibles here.
Oh, not at all. Believe me, I've seen a lot worse.
We're not going to go down that road.
No,
All right. Thank you again for your patience. I'm going to
Right.
move.
Thank you too, and have a good night.
you
And you
too.
have a better one.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
So anyway, Tom, I want to walk through. I think we'll postpone the minutes until Kristen can be on board. So let's go to old business. The hazard mitigation plan. We haven't got the town manager here, so I don't know how that plays in. I'm assuming in the big picture, if we can reduce carbon to the environment through fossil fuel reductions, then hazards get mitigated, sea level rise, etc. But I need to hear from the town manager. We do. You were going to do the Big Belly
I did.
solar compactor.
I called them. I went out there, checked it out. It's not working. It was jammed. There was a light on, so I'm assuming it's getting solar power of some type. I called the company. They have no history of us. They've never sold or distributed or delivered one here that they know of.
Well,
So-
we have it.
Right, but trying to figure out how we got it, what committee we got it from, who donated it. What I need, I left a couple of messages, voicemails, and I sent a text to Mr. Kilgore, trying to get access to the unit, because if I can get the serial number from it, I can get its history through the company, and they can tell me exactly what unit it is, when it was made, shipped, and who it was shipped to. Then we would know who gave it to us. And according to the gentleman I talked to from the company, they're fixable. There could be a bad battery in there, or it could be a hydraulic problem. They last anywhere from 10 to 20 years. Exactly how old it is, I'm guessing over 10 years, but less than 20. And it doesn't look like it's in bad shape. It just has to be fixed or replaced. But until we get the serial number and I can get a little information on it, we don't know what type it is. What they have different units. That's what he has to know to tell you what can and how much it would cost to repair it or replace.
Here's what you can tell them. I was engaged with the Energy Committee. That was the first thing we voted to do way back in 2005.
2005, possibly. Yeah, right. Okay.
And we purchased it. I don't know if we had grant money. I don't know quite how it went, but we have had it. It kind of floated around town a little bit. But if it's usable, great.
But it's probably, it's probably close to the end of its life cycle. It's got, if you say 2005, you've got 17 years, 18 years on it.
And it's probably been jammed and wearing out all the parts.
For a
So,
long time.
so another, thank you for that update. The question I have for you, for your input to me,
Mhm.
since we don't have a good history with it, but also the Green Communities grants applications are coming up in another month or two. And I don't know if we should consider, and we can discuss it a little bit now and maybe later in February, but from what you know, do you think we should try to purchase more of those through the Green Communities for trash receptacles?
I'm thinking, no, this thing is jammed. I don't know how long it's been jammed and if they do go and empty it in some way or not. If they're emptying that on a regular basis, it's getting utilized out there because it's full. When we were out there, it was full. Talking to Dan Buron on the rec commission, he'd love to move it to Marathon Park. They could use one there if it functions, which is no good to them down there if it's non-functioning. Because it's busy down there 3 seasons out of the year, actually all 4 seasons with the kids. That would be ideal spot for one. If that, like I said, if it works at the track and it's been this, I don't have the history of how often they had to empty it. Leave one there, one on the
Well,
common. But one
I never got that kind of data. I do know that it compacts the trash, so so you get more trash per unit volume than
right.
typically. Do you know? You don't have any idea how much they cost nowadays?
I went on their website and it looked like some of them I was looking at were in the 3,000, 4,000 range. In that size, where they had the excuse me, you had the compactor in the middle and you had the 2 recyclers on the side. You had the trash in the middle, paper and plastic on either side.
Okay.
So they
so
about $4,000.
Thank you. That becomes a direct cost. So hopefully getting grants and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
But there's no reduction on general electricity cost in town from something like that.
No, because there's no electricity. I mean, if you're gonna put a regular trash barrel out there that they empty once a week, there's no energy there. But if you want to cut down on the pickup, it's a work thing where you can have people who you work doing other things other than picking up trash 3 days a week. They can do it once. Well, once every other.
And typically the highway department empties trash barrels, but I don't know what happens over at the school system.
Right.
I will take an action to bring this up to the town manager and talk about this in terms of the green communities and whether I have to find out if they're eligible.
The other thing was Legion Field. That gets utilized all seasons until winter between baseball, softball, soccer, whatever they play down there, soccer, football, everything. It's ideal, and they have a concession stand there. To have a compactor, I think it would be very utilized.
Well, I think of it at maybe the soccer fields, any place that has athletics or parks. We're trying to get the parks going a lot more, so any of that kind of thing would be helpful. So I'll take the action to talk with the town and I'm going to let somebody in here. I just saw them up top here.
Okay.
So I'll take that action and look at it and go from there, and we can talk about that again next one. Pat, I'm sorry. I just noticed that you were waiting in the waiting room, so it didn't flash at me.
That's okay.
Fancy waiting room.
So basically, we got started very late, so you're not terribly late. We've had a couple of comments in terms of some ways to potentially deal with some other energy issues. And Mark, I'm sorry, I'm apologizing because I didn't write down the notes well enough. But anyway, Pat, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Did you want to just listen in, or did you want to have a comment?
Nope, just listening tonight. Thank you.
The other thing is we just finished a discussion with a gentleman named John O'Rourke, who represents Good Energy, and we talked about uh, community aggregation, which is a town council has to vote for it to be done, and also community solar. And I didn't get a question asked to him because there are opportunities in Bridgewater that we may talk about tonight to solarize a lot of parking lots in town and produce energy that people could purchase. And I don't know if that's a shorter, long-term, or medium-term solution, but that's kind of where we're at. We just finished a conversation on the Big Belly trash compactors. They're solar powered. They compact trash. They have recycling bins on the sides, etc. We have one in town that's probably 15 years old, 12 to 15 years old. So we're going to pursue that a little bit. And I'm going to move through our agenda fairly quickly. I'm missing one committee member. Unfortunately, something came up, she couldn't attend. Tom, our Bridgewater town municipality is a major portion of its electrical energy from a solar field that was installed back in 2016. It became operable, and we purchased something on the order of 90% of our energy, as best I can track. And we also get solar credits that I have details on it. The National Grid gives credits, but the bottom line is it's been reducing our energy and municipal energy consumption about somewhere between 10 and 20%, depending on the year, et cetera. And the town has done a lot of work through the green communities to reduce the energy costs of various buildings. We've dropped the energy costs of buildings about 15 to 20%, which is our goal, was 20%. In contrast to that, we've also increased the fossil fuel use through gasoline and diesel. So those things have counterbalanced. But overall, Bridgewater has maintained its energy consumption normalized to 1 million metric units of BTU per year. We've sustained that. We went up about 9%. We're back down to about 3% against our 2009 baseline year. And that's with all the energy conservation that we've done. It's also with other processes that have gone up and those that have gone down. So I think even staying stable for 13 years or 12, 14 years is pretty good. I've been working with the town accounting office because I track the use, and I've gotten some confusions on credits. We get energy credits, and those go to a specific set of electrical accounts in town. So 100% of the energy that comes from that solar field goes to 100% of those aggregated accounts. According to MEI, we're using a little bit more energy, electrical energy, than the solar field provides. And so there's opportunity there for even the town to go through energy aggregation or community solar. So those are just processes that I wanted to speak to you and also here to the public a little bit about. Because I haven't gotten an update on the fossil fuel use for the last second quarter of 2023. I can't give you a number where we are right now, but I hopefully will have that in time for the next meeting. So that's an FYI. That's also an FYI on the MEI. MEI means Massachusetts Energy Initiative. They provide a database that tracks through the green communities that we are a member of. They track all of the energy types: wood, coal, fossil fuel. They don't track solar necessarily that a town buys, but through that we have a very detailed history of the use of energy in town. And as I said, we're doing fairly well. Any questions? Public's invited to ask it too.
If you wanted to go solar instead of aggregate, we were talking earlier with the gentleman with the aggregation,
Yeah.
going to him. If we were you were talking about possible more solar fields in the parking lots, how much energy credits would that bring, and where would they go if the town has got 90%, would have 20 extra? It seems like we
Well,
sell it How would we do that?
One of the reports that I drafted and sent to you has a lot of detail on that. Again, there are the way the town, if the town and the school district were willing to solarize their parking lots, I put together a table that suggests that we could get, this is all hypothetical right now for me,
Yeah.
but there's two ways to get money. One would be if you lease the property to somebody that does community solar, okay? They would put it in, they would lease it.
Maintain it.
And they pay for it, but they lease our property. And also, I have to talk with the town a bit about this. It could be that we could get excise tax type on those improvements to those properties. Since it's publicly held land, I don't know if it's taxable from that perspective. But I have developed, in the draft report has all of the information and all the places I could identify. And it, you know, just as ballpark numbers, we could have a revenue stream from solarizing these places from $100,000 to $500,000. You know, it's not kind of inconsequential. It's an employee or two, is the way I like to think of it. But that's all being written up in that report that I sent that we'll talk a bit more in a little bit. Okay. Good question. We're going on to zoning and more. Lithium storage batteries. I've done some research on it, but I haven't done enough. I know that some of the departments in town are a little bit worried about how we handle lithium storage units in new builds. You know, you can either go direct to the grid, you can just use it directly, or you can store it. And some of those, lithium is a pretty volatile chemical. And it's very hard if their fire starts to go out. So putting storage in a garage or outside of a garage, those kinds of things had to be considered. And so that's kind of a heavy lift. And that's one of the things we talked about earlier, this report that we're doing, some policies and that we need to recommend or suggest to the town council. So in that case, it is a concern. I think it's a legitimate concern, but I also think there are solutions that we need to, as part of our reports, get done and get through that. The tree cutting ordinance, again, we earlier today talked about the tree committee, and Mark talked a bit about that. And I think the tree committee has some things that would be very useful in the sense of reducing the carbon footprint of the town, which one of the town manager's suggestions is we get to zero carbon in 20 years, a generation, basically. That's a hard sell because it's hard to do, but it's a good sell. There's another zoning ordinance that I think we should be recommending, and that's the wind ordinance. People think of wind as the big windmills that sit and are vertical, or not vertical, but horizontal, and they spin like a big turbine.
Yeah.
There are other potential wind generators that can go on your rooftop. I know of one that could do 3 kEVs per year. That's enough to power my house. If I had a wind field that it would go. So there's some things that are on the market and developing that could get small wind, what I call small wind, not big wind, but small wind. And again,
Could I
yes.
ask a question? Could we go back to the tree committee again?
Yes.
I want to make sure people understand that this new tree committee is strictly addressing municipal trees. Sidewalk trees, park trees, maybe at schools. So when we talk about not cutting trees, that doesn't apply to private property, which
Right.
is unfortunate.
But are you a member of the tree committee?
Not yet.
Not yet. Yes, I understand it has to do with municipal, but also it has to do with, for the public to know, there have been 2 projects in town that have clear cut essentially property.
Preserve the new one, right? Yeah.
And the request was made by the planning board that they provide money for tree planting or trees.
Right.
And that's where the tree committee comes in. The
right.
tree committee would hopefully recommend where to spend that money or where to put trees, that kind of thing. So it's not just, it's not involved with private ownership and cutting of trees. That's a
Yeah.
zoning issue that somebody else has to deal
That
with.
hasn't been addressed yet. Yeah. I
Right.
know what you're saying. Yeah.
But the tree committee, as I understand it, and I appreciate your comment that it's not about private tree cutting. It is to the degree that we can ask developers, and the planning board has set a precedence by doing that, to get money to come into the town for that. Um, I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm going to try to pay attention to it. And from an energy perspective, save a tree, remove carbon, cut a tree, you know,
Yeah.
compensation. So it's my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you for your input. I hope I'm not too unclear.
No, thank you.
On the agenda is another thing. It's called PHIUS. It is a guidance document that is for buildings that I got excited because I went through the McElwain development, and the building that the new building has built according to the PHIUS guidelines. It's a nonprofit organization. It's committed to decarbonizing the built environment by making high performance passive building the mainstream of a market standard. They do training and certification of people. Um, it's climate specific passive building. I'm going to get to why I think it's really great. And again, another thing we should be talking about in terms of the reports we have to do. It's high performance buildings. Locally, we are, as a green community, we adhere to the stretch codes of the state of Massachusetts. Those are automatically adopted. One of those is building tightness. Building tightness, as I understand it, gets measured by closing up the building, putting a fan in the doorway or a windowway and turning it on and see what kind of, I'm going to call it vacuum it draws.
Excellent. Yeah.
And the lower the number, the better it is. And the typical reporting thing is about 45 on that scale. The new building that's down at the McElwain School, when they did the test, it's called a HERS test. When they did it, it drew 22.
22.
22. Half. 45 is sort of where you target, go to 22. So it's incredibly tight building. They have solar on top to provide solar power for all of their external lighting for the property, that kind of thing. So when I mentioned it to them, I was shocked, quite frankly, to hear that they already had voluntarily adhered to the
Right.
PHIUS standards. Again, that's a policy issue that we may want to speak about to the town council when we get the opportunity.
When you went there and talked to them, did they know about PHIUS, or that you just by their building standards, they fell into the framework of PHIUS?
I think that they were aware of it because I used the term PHIUS,
Right.
and he immediately said, yes, we followed that guidance.
Oh, so they knew, okay. I was just
Yeah.
curious, they had just done it out of just the way they go about their buildings. They just happen to fall into that category, but by following that standard.
They followed, the guidelines are pretty good, and they followed those, I believe.
Now, with the school, how about the school? Did they test the school?
No, the school's a little bit different because it's a reuse of the building.
Right.
And I think it's pretty tight, but they didn't tell me that they had done a full test.
It would be interesting to see what that would show, because that gives you an idea of what you could do with older buildings in town. And
Well,
can we fit that in there? That, those that have criteria.
I access on your electrical bill, there's a little fee that you can go and access. Solar Smart, not Solar Smart, it's another one. But basically, every owner of a house can access insulation of their built house. I did that in my attic, which was bare, and they insulated it airtight. And they did a test, and it pulled 45.
Well,
and my house was built in 1955. So, and I put some additions on, but basically that energy efficiency piece that everybody who pays an electrical bill has access to, has saved me substantial money over the 5 years that I've had it.
Yeah, I gotta do, you're supposed to do mine.
Yeah, and they do other things, light bulbs and
Right.
all that kind of thing. The other thing that we need to talk about a bit more, and maybe not tonight, but it's called Soul Smart designation, and that is another way for a town to go through a process that basically says that you're trying to be as energy efficient as possible. And so it's a there are, if you get that designation, as I understand it and research, that we could be we could access some fundings of certain types, grant money, that kind of thing. So I just wanted to put that out there, that is there. And I think in the reports that we're writing, at least I added some description of that, and I apologize, my brain's not pulling up the details right now. I will, one of the things we're charged with, I'm going to move to items E. One of the things that we're charged with by the town manager is working with the golf course in terms of this potential wind energy generator out of the golf course for the cart barns. I have reached out to them since our last meeting to figure out if they were really going to move forward on that. And the return on the investment apparently is a little bit too
Tight.
It's not good enough
Mm-hmm.
to go forward with it. But I'm going to continue pursuing that kind of alternatives, because I think we could potentially have a small wind zoning that enables people that have a good wind field around their house to actually put these units. These units are about 7 feet tall and 7 feet in diameter, and there's one operating at the Burlington, Vermont Airport. They're doing a 1 year or 3 year test of that particular unit, and I haven't talked with the developer recently to find out how that's going. But that's small scale wind, sir.
Is that the prototype one that I saw there
Yeah.
a while?
Yeah, it's called the Orb,
Right.
and it's Arc Industries here in Bridgewater that's developed it. There's some other things that we talked about. There's energy aggregation. I think Kristen, who couldn't make the meeting tonight, has the MCAN goals and opportunities. We need to hear a bit more about that and add it to our reports. Basically, that's all I had for old business right now. Do you have anything that comes to mind for you, Tom?
No, not the top of my head. I haven't got much up here as it is.
Okay. Under new business, I have distributed to the committee some draft reports. We were given a goal. What were the energy grant opportunities for Bridgewater? That's at a larger scale. We've done some research on that. We've populated a draft report for that. There's also a report that I've drafted, energy initiatives. That goes into the detail of what we talked about before in terms of solar fields and how much energy it could be produced. One thing I remember specifically is if the town were to lease the solar, the parking lot at the old high school, that parking lot is due for repair and upgrades. So if we somehow talked to the school committee in the town and we came to something that we'd be able to produce energy there, there's two options. A, community solar, where anybody with a meter could access energy from there, or the other is direct supply to some of the district school buildings.
Absolutely.
For example, the calculations I've done, and these are all very preliminary, but the calculations I've done suggest that that parking lot, if solarized, could produce enough energy to power the Williams School twice. So
the middle school.
And the calculations are all based on the amount of solar energy we're getting from the fireworks circle. I know the acreage, we know the production on an annual basis, so we can take that and break it down into what the 2 acres of that parking lot are and calculate how much we could anticipate. So there's a revenue stream there as well as potential savings of the school district, and that all goes to the budget. If you can cut any money there, then the budget can go to teaching rather than If you don't increase the budget, at least you have more available for teaching and other things of that nature. The third thing is, and we need to put together an energy education program. That's a bit more of a challenge because I think that has to be some kind of a PowerPoint presentation that takes what we've learned in those reports and goes in to say, here's where you can access, here's energy aggregation, community solar, here's aggregation, here's opportunities. So we have quite a bit of work to do on that particular report. I think that's going to take some time. The last thing I'll say, I have drafted, every year the town council requires the town clerk to put an annual report together. When we became a city, it was no longer mandatory, but the council wanted to have a report on how the town's doing. And all committees, boards, commissions, departments, etc., need to provide a report that the clerk produces. I have drafted that report, and it's quite detailed in terms of energy savings and some of the things we've talked here, but I just wanted the committee to know that I've done that. Tom, if you'd like to review it and help me out, I'm happy to send it.
Yeah, please do. Yes.
Thank you, sir. I need more eyes on things that I write now that I've gotten older.
I exactly how you feel. I'm right behind you.
I wish you were in front.
No,
Anyway,
no.
all jokes aside, that's what I have. It's mostly FYI tonight. I appreciate the public listening in on this. We will have this meeting, since it's recorded. It will be posted since it's an official meeting. Tom, I'd like to meet. We talked about way back when we'd meet quarterly, but since Kristen wasn't able to be here tonight, and we've got those reports that I'd like to get done and get before the council sooner rather than later.
Okay.
What about late February, like the 28th of February? That's a Tuesday night. I don't know if there's other committee.
Can I run out and look at my calendar? I'll be back right then in 1 minute.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah, right. Okay, that'll make 2 minutes now. 28th of February. I'm back. My secretary said it's good.
It looks good. All right, I'll put out a request. I'll talk to the town manager tomorrow about it and see if where we're at, and try to give him a briefing on our reports, etc.
Okay.
I can squeeze it in on another meeting and have with him. But anyway, that's all I have for tonight.
Okay.
Anything that I missed?
Could I ask a question, Carlton?
You may.
If you put solar at the old high school, how is that actually laid out? And still have parking? How does that work?
It's a parking lot that you solarize. So what you put,
You would go over it.
yeah, it's over the parking lot. You put
Okay.
stanchions. You put
Yeah.
No,
That's-
I'm sorry. What a good question. You basically put them on stanchions that you park the cars under.
Right, I've seen that.
And that's one of the hot items where people are doing right now, is to put
Right.
solarize their parking lots. And the town
Yeah.
we have down at the several of the playground areas at the Marathon Park. We've got a 2-acre parking lot, gravel parking lot.
And
Mhm.
What's that?
all the schools have all this area, a lot of area for the school system in this town.
The high school has significant parking that could be solarized. And that could provide the energy for those buildings, but the excess could be community. As I said before, it could provide good revenue for the town, reduce the cost of the school system. So, and at the same time, trying to get decarbonization as much as possible in Bridgewater.
Okay, so it's all canopies. Okay,
It's all canopy. Yeah, it's not ground mounts. The terminology would be ground mounts. That's like out at Fireworks Circle. That's what's also out on Curve
Near
Street.
on Main Street, yeah.
Yeah, and then parking lot is canopies, and you're seeing now advertisements for putting canopies on your driveway,
mhm,
not just your roof, but on your driveway. So
okay.
there's
Like a
tons of innovate. Go ahead, Tom.
Like a carport,
Mhm.
Like a carport.
exactly, just like a carport.
I'm glad I got you. You're thinking. I didn't even think about a carport, but yes, it's just like a carport.
Mhm.
And it's structurally, it doesn't interfere with the roof. So,
Right.
there's just opportunities.
Okay,
As long as you
thank
don't have
you.
shade like I have.
I got a question. Does the school committee have an energy other than the super of facilities manager? Is there anybody else in the school department looking into any type of energy savings?
I'm assuming, I have to assume, and I need to go before them maybe, or we do. I don't know the answer to that. I do know when they put the building up, there is some small solar, but I have no idea how effective it's been.
Well, us, the town, or us approaching them with these parking lot suggestions, grant money coming from the state, federal government through the school systems to save energy and save
Yeah.
themselves money. I would think they'd be interested in that.
Well, that's why I want to have our meeting sooner rather than later, because I'd
Yep.
like to get these reports in front of the town manager and the town council. So, and actually that does bring me under new business. I think I sent you out something just before this, but there's a number of recommendations that these reports could do. And one of the things the town manager charged us with is policy recommendation. And here's just some examples that I think, and if you can think of them later and send them to me, or even now, policy recommendation: become a municipal electric aggregation community. Policy recommendation: encourage residents to convert to community solar. Adopt the FIAS guidelines for building construction. That would go towards that zero carbon goal. Consider development of solar installation on town-owned parcels for community solar, etc. And then the other one is, we don't have a wind ordinance in town. So one of the things years ago I drafted, it's a decade ago, I drafted a wind ordinance that was for small, medium, and large wind. And I think we need to rethink that and maybe go to small wind, et cetera. But that's another potential policy recommendation. I don't know if you've had a chance to read the reports, but can you think of anything else that we should think towards as policy recommendations?
Not off the top of my head, but no.
Well, if you do think of it, just send me an email and I'll add it to the list. Or better yet, is take a look at those reports.
What I'm gonna do.
They're a little bit long, but there's a lot of detail in it. But the bottom line is, where do we want to recommend the town go to?
Can we sit with coffee and talk about this, or are we legally allowed to do that? Or
If we meet as a quorum,
Mhm.
we have to.
Okay.
Let me check that out. I think we can meet one-on-one, but I have to be careful. It's the thing called serial violation. So if you and I have a conversation, and then you and Kristen have a conversation, and then I and Kristen have a conversation, that's not allowed.
Okay.
But I think we can sit and talk about it.
Let's try.
I know your
You're all by
background.
yourself between meetings.
What's that?
Productivity is challenged. If that, I'll just put it that way.
Yeah, it is. That's why I sent the reports out, and I've written so many reports in my life. It's old hat to me. I'm sure that you haven't. So.
Oh no, I don't plan on it.
But you can take your pencil and your pen, and you can scratch it out and say, get rid of it.
That's
I can print for you too. Anyway, all that aside, I think we can have a conversation around that. We just have to be careful about the details that we talk about.
absolutely. I can see that.
All right. And I'll check with the town manager. Yes, ma'am.
May I ask a question? I know that we're always encouraging commercial projects to have solar-ready roofs. Is there anything in the plans to make it a requirement?
That's a great question.
Good question. I like that question.
I would have to talk with the planning board and the council about whether or not we should zone it that way. But I agree with you. I've looked at some of the large roofs.
Oh, yeah, what a waste.
That new one on Bedford Street. My God.
Well, and Elm Street, Bedford Street.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, all of Elm Street.
There are a number of very large buildings that I'm assuming the roofing is strong enough to hold it. But
Well, you get them solar ready, right? Most of them.
I hope so. You know, the new fire station is supposed to be going towards solar
Mhm.
or alternative energy. So I would, these small windmills that I'm talking about
Yeah,
uh, could potentially help them. I just don't know if we can zone it that way. But I
right,
think alternative energy ready might be a good thing.
Mhm.
but ready doesn't require it. It's
Right.
just ready. It could be ready forever.
I don't know. You raise a fantastic question.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can make it a requirement. I
Why
don't
is
know.
that?
I, to me, it gets into
Legality, you mean? No.
public telling the private entity what you have to do, but
Yes,
we do tell them certain things.
They do that a lot, though. I mean, if you build in certain parts of a town, hey, this is commercial, and these are requirements in order to get a commercial in. And if it says, hey, you have to be solar, so much percent solar going into your grid, and in 5 years down the road, you have to get another percentage until you get 100%. I can see that being put out there.
And I'll be honest with you, from a private perspective, a lot of it goes back to the return on investment.
Oh,
Mhm.
absolutely.
If you put it there, how much can they cut their energy costs? That's first.
Correct.
Second is if they sell it elsewhere, how fast can they make their money back?
Mhm.
So that's a major factor in terms of zoning something like that.
Well, if you were gonna zone something like that in your town would be the first one to buy it back. I'll give the option to be the first one. So you have a buyer already lined up. And we're gonna make you put it in. You take it for yourself. What you have left over, we'll buy. It's
Yeah.
gonna be cheaper than the grid. We'll buy.
Just remember, we're getting about 90% of our energy from a solar field. So we
Right,
don't
then
have a lot of accounts.
we can sell it to the town, the people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I know
Well-
we had discussion about the new school, remember? And they are solar ready, but that could be that way for 50 years.
Right. It's a matter of cost and the return on the investment. And that gets into economics and that kind of thing. And I'll try to educate myself more, but the ROI is critical in this stuff.
Oh, I know.
And it's gotta be state and federal money out there for this stuff. Not that it'll cover all of it, but for the private industry and in us, the municipalities. Hey, you do this, we'll give you something. I don't know where to find it.
Well,
That's why
Well, take a look at those reports because I think
I
we
will.
found it. And you know, I've done a lot of online searching and stuff. It's not my preferred thing, but take a look at those. The links are in there. Click them and see what you think.
I
You
will.
know, and just comment, say, "Hey, that's great. That's terrible.
Mhm.
Can't do it." One of the public education things that I think we need to include is a listing of all the places you can go to get grant money or whatever incentives for putting, and the state of Massachusetts, I get it constant, I'm barraged with it, is constantly saying you can get your solar installed free. But
Right.
every time I follow that, it isn't totally free.
Yeah,
So I get confused about the details of that.
And now not everybody qualifies. Depends on where the roof of your house is facing.
Right.
Mine's wrong way. So what do you know?
How many trees you have, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
So, or shading you have. Anyway, we've made some progress from the committee perspective. If you can look at those reports, and if you have any comments, foibles, catches, let me know one-on-one. You can just send them to me, or we can talk about those comments one-on-one if they're comments on the report. Okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think we've met my goal for tonight, which is primarily education, and have some follow-ups that I have to do in terms of getting the information on the community aggregation up on the website, that kind of thing.
And if I can get this serial number from Mr. Kilgore, I will go look at that machine
Okay.
and go from there. I'll see what
The
I'll
other
take
thing,
company go from there.
the other thing to do with that company is take a picture of it and send it to them. We have it.
Oh,
We
I have a
bought
picture.
it.
I already did. I got pictures.
I think it was grant money. I think it may have been green community money. I'm not sure.
That's what let me get my camera's right here. I think it did have that on it. Hold on.
Okay.
You're right. I think it was You don't have to wait for me if you don't want it, but I have it in my.
Okay, given that, under Robert's Rules of Orders, we don't have to have a motion to adjourn to declare. The chair can declare a meeting done, seeing that there's no other information coming forward. So I'm going to declare that this meeting's adjourned until the next meeting, hopefully in February.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night. All right, let me see where I am here. Where did it go?